Hi everybody, today is 10-3, which means circle time. Today we're going to take a look at how to write equations of circles, how to graph circles with new vocabulary of a circle and a center. So let's start with diving right in with what is a circle. A circle is a set of all points in a plane that are equidistant from a given point in the plane, which is called the center. Any segment whose endpoints are the center and a point on the circle is what we call the radius. The circle is actually just this blue part. This would be the inside of the circle, and then everything out here represents the outside of the circle. Our equation for a circle with center at hk and radius r is given by the equation x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k quantity squared equals r squared. Again, h and k, look out how they are. It's minus h minus k, so they're opposites. That means if you have a plus h, that is actually a negative when you write the center out. Alright, so let's give it a try. The plan for a park puts the center of a circular pond of radius 0.6 mile, 2.5 miles east, and 3.5 miles south of the park headquarters. Write an equation to represent the border of the pond using the headquarters as the origin. If we are using the headquarters as the origin, that puts headquarters here. From this spot, we're going to go 2.5 miles east and 3.8 miles south, which puts us right here. We then have a radius of 0.6. So a relatively small circle. When you look at the way my graph is set up, but keep in mind this is in miles, so it's actually pretty big when we think about the units being used. To write my equation, we follow the formula x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equal to r squared. A couple things I know right away. Radius of 0.6, pretty easy answer. Take 0.6, we'll square it. 0.6 squared gives me an answer of 0.36. Now, I'm 2.5 miles east and 3.8 miles south. That meant I went 2.5 miles this way. To make a translation 2.5 to the right, we go x minus 2.5 squared. To go down 3.8, that would be as y minus negative 3.8 or y plus 3.8. And what we have left with is the equation of our circular park. Alright, so let's try another one here. Write an equation for a circle if the endpoints of the diameter are at 2, 8, and 2, negative 2. So let's draw ourselves a circle here. So here's my circle. And we have 2 points on this circle. Let's say here and here. Those 2 points are 2, 8 and 2, negative 2. So the first thing I have to do is I have to locate that point right there, which is the center. Also happens to be the midpoint of those 2 points. And if you remember, the way we find the midpoint is by averaging the x's. 2 plus 2 is 4, divided by 2 gives me 2. And then averaging the y's. 8 plus negative 2 is negative 6, divided by 2 is negative 3. So the midpoint of these two has to be 2, negative 3. That marks the center. So if my center is at 2, negative 3, this would be the equation x minus 2 quantity squared plus y minus negative 3 or y plus 3 quantity squared equal to r squared. So the last thing that I'm missing is r. R is the distance, which is from the center to a point on your circle. So to do that, we'll use, again, from the first section in this chapter, our distance formula. Distance formula goes square roots of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1, which means minus negative 3 or plus 3 squared. Do a little bit of simplifying. 2 minus 2 is 0. Square that number, I get 0. 8 plus 3 is 11. Square that number, I get 121. Square root 0 plus 121 takes me back to 11. So the distance, or my radius, is 11. However, for my formula, it's x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So the value that I need here is actually the 121. Alright, let's find the center and the radius of the circle given x squared plus y squared is 16. So, if I'm given this equation, I simply have to look at this equation and say, okay, x squared is actually x minus 0, and y squared is actually y minus 0, which puts the center of this circle at 0, 0. This is equal to r squared. Since r squared is 16, square root that number tells me r has to be 4. This would be a circle with center at 0, 0 and radius of 4. And there it is. Now, here's where it gets a little bit trickier. Occasionally, you'll have x squared, y squared, and an extra x, or maybe an extra y. This requires you to complete the square. Now, we talked about completing the squares back when we did quadratics. We talked about completing squares last section with parabolas. It's going to be here the rest of the way. Remember, to complete the square, you take the b term, you divide it by 2, and then you square the entire thing. So for this one, we'll have x squared plus 6x. Now, there's your b term. So I take the b divided by 2, that gives me 3. Square it to get 9. 9 is what I get when I complete the square. I have left plus y squared. The minus 7, any numbers that you have, we'll move those over to the other side. So I'm going to add that 7 over, which puts me here. And keep in mind I completed the square, so to keep things balanced in my equation, if I add 9 on the left, I also have to add 9 on the right. Now the whole reason for completing the square, this now factors nicely. And it's going to factor into x plus 3 squared plus y squared equal to 16. Once we're in the standard standard form, I can now find the center, which is located at a -3, 0. And I can find the radius, which is simply the square root of this number, which gives me 4. So this would be a circle, -3, 0 as the center, radius of 4. And there it is. Alright, let's do one more of those types. This is going to be about as hard as you're going to see here. This has both x squared, y squared, an x and a y. So this has a little bit of everything, which means you not only have to complete the square once for the x's, you also have to do it for the y's. So let's take a look. X squared plus 8x. There's your b term, so we'll complete the square. Take the b, divide it by 2, gives you 4. Square it gives you 16. Plus y squared minus 4y. There's your b term, so we'll complete the square. 4 divided by 2 gives me 2, square it gives me 4 again. There's what I got when I completed the square for the y's. Any extra number you have, remember, we'll move those over to the other side. So we'll put the -11 on this side. I have a plus 16, remember, from where I completed the square with the x's. And I also have a plus 4 from where I completed the square with the y's. Don't forget to add those to the other side. We have to keep the equation balanced. Factor. So this will factor 2x plus 4 squared plus y minus 2 squared equal to -11 plus 16 is going to give me 5, plus 4 more is going to give me 9. This puts the center of my circle at -4, +2, and it gives me a radius of my circle, square root this number, of 3. There's your center, there's your radius, and there's a smiley face. That's it for circles, pretty straightforward. The hardest part here is usually these types of problems. So I gave you these two, which involve completing the square. If you can handle these, then you can handle just about everything. So for these two problems, I want you to complete the square, put it in standard form, and then locate the center of the circle and locate the radius of the circle. Answers are given in the yellow box. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good night.